We've got Sean Valor, and he is going to be speaking on total THC, a CBD grower's nightmare, which is a huge topic right now, as we know. I'm really interested in hearing about this, so I'm just going to let you take the floor and go right ahead.
Thank you. All right. So we all want to make money at with our hemp crops, and one of the biggest issues right now is the state. Each state, it's a completely different story on what they want and what they allow. So obviously, it's going to be different per state. Some states are open to hemp production, some other ones aren't. So ones who are open usually follow the Farm Bill's law of Delta 9. The other ones who do not want hemp production and do not like bud growth or CBD oil, one of their ways to try and control that and constrict the market is through total THC. Total THC, now, what it does is it adds the THCA, the acid, the non-psychoactive element, back into the number to determine its legality. Why do that? THCA, it's something that's absorbed when you're smoking it, when you're eating it. It's the pre-product before it turns into the Delta 9. Delta 9 is the psychoactive. So to determine legality, it's more ethical to try and test it by Delta 9. But most states, such as North Carolina, West Virginia, and Virginia, something I have a lot of experience with, being a consultant for about 5 years, working with all the universities in Virginia during their pilot programs. Now, this is going to be a big issue. Most of the places we've consulted in the past 2 years have been growing high CBD, and when you have high CBD, you also get a higher THC in your plant. So, what that's going to do is, overall, there's a specific limit in Delta 9 THC that you can have to actually pass legal. And each lab is going to test it different based on what testing method they're having. So, it's always important that you're going to test your stuff beforehand, before it ever gets to the point where the state wants to test it themselves, and to test it in a very verified method. So what you're going to do is test for Delta 9, and you're going to test your own total THC before you harvest it, because after harvest is always going to rise because of heat. Heat is one of the big things that will actually cause influxes in THCA and THC. And the higher THCA you have, the higher that number is going to be. So there's a big difference between an 0.3 THC Delta 9 and 0.3 total THC. Overall, the Delta 9 may be less than a quarter of that number. THCA is always going to influx on the plant. It's not a set number, because it'll change based on conditions and how the trichomes are set. Most of this THCA is in the trichomes of the plant, of the bud, of the leaves, and what that does is you're going to get false positives on the plant when it can actually be legal. Many of the plants are going to get burned down this year in Virginia because they're going to be testing with total THC. And many of places in Virginia are growing hemp and pot hybrids, such as Biox and T1. Some of the first generation stuff. When you have a first generation plant, it's going to be different each time you plant it per plant. It has some of the articles out there saying that any flower variety can go hot at any point. It's because it's first generation. The hemp industry is still so new, and people are still coming up with new generations. Another thing is, if you have a hemp field next to you who's planting hybrids, and so let's say you're going for a low CBD variety and you're looking to sell seed, essentially what's going to happen is if they're planting hybrids, the males can spread out their spawn all the way up to a mile. Even back in the 1500s, when this was still legal, before Prohibition, there were reports of the males traveling about 30 miles in complaints in Europe. So essentially, a seller could end up selling you seeds without their knowledge that were come from a male hybrid plant, which would then create the new plant that you just bought a higher THC rating and something that could go illegal. Now, if one of your plants tests in a total THC state above the legal limit of 0.3 total THC, it's going to essentially mean you have to burn down your whole crop. Hundreds of thousands of dollars lost. Now, we want to avoid this. It's something that's going to wipe out people's finances and all that, and it's going to make it a very risky business. It's hard to say it's a genuine business if every other year you lose your whole crop, you lose your livelihood. What are you supposed to do then? Obviously, total THC is not in the Farm Bill. It is not in the Farm Bill. It's not legal under federal regulations. Now, states do have some leeway in the current setup because the DEA has not set up regulations yet. They haven't set up guidelines that the states have already assigned in. This will be sometime, possibly in the beginning to mid-2020, that the DEA will set up license. But there are already rumors going around that they're going to go with total THC too. And this number, it means that anyone's plant can go up and down based on the THCA amount. You can have a completely legal, normal hemp plant that would be usable, sellable, profitable under any means. But it won't be sellable if it's under total THC. So if you're going to, so let's say, plant 30 acres, each plant is going to in total determine if your field is going to be able to be sellable. We want your field to be sellable. I've been helping consult with Dr. John O'Connor, PhD, all across Virginia to help with this issue. And essentially, what we're doing is we're trying to deter people from buying hybrids, pot marijuana, hemp and marijuana mixes. So, what you're going to want is, in total THC states, the safest thing you can plant is fiber or grain. Fiber varieties are going to have little to no THC. A lot of the Italian brands, such as Fibro Nova or Tigra, they're going to have little to no THC because in Europe, the Delta 9 has to be kept under 0.2%, which is really low. And that's the number you have to look out for. And the maximum amount of THC that you can have, Delta 9, is 0.2. That's how you'll pass Delta 9 each time, is if it's under 0.2 each time. That'll keep in line with the variables. Now, obviously, the lower it is, the safer you'll be. Unfortunately, the lower the Delta 9, it also means the lower the CBD. Now, high CBD is one of the most profitable markets around in the hemp industry. Everybody wants to get into it. Everybody wants to sell CBD. All of Virginia, everybody we talked to, they all got into it for CBD because if you're selling per gram, you're essentially making $3,000. You can make a lot per bud if it's a high quality plant. So we have to make sure and ensure that we can do that, because if it goes over, we're not making that money. We're not making the money that we were originally told or looking to make. It may even be impossible in some total THC states, depending on the feelings that the state has against smokable hemp and CBD oil. Virginia itself likes to play games with CBD oil and makes it hard to market CBD oil in the state. The governor first put out that the CBD oil was illegal, and then it got passed through the Congress. It went on forward. It was legal for a little while. But then they made it so that the only way you can produce CBD oil in Virginia was if you're passed by the FDA first. The FDA is not giving out any licenses or approvals because they haven't done their research first that they said could take up to 5 years, which means you can't produce CBD oil or any of that until they're done with their research and they're ready to give out licenses, which Virginia is looking for. And that's some of the struggles that we have in states who are looking to go against smokable hemp. In those states, they probably are just looking for fiber, grain, seed, and edibles, fruit seed, because seed doesn't have any CBD, doesn't have any THC. When you see hemp oil, it's really just the seed oil. So that's another thing that you have to look out in CBD oil is, are you looking at hemp oil or are you looking at CBD oil? Some places that we've talked to will actually put seed oil in with a small margin of CBD oil with the seed oil. So that's one of the things that we talk about in our book, Farming Industrial Hemp, Not Your Daddy's Tobacco. So this book is on Amazon. It's the #1 release in soil science. One of the big issues that we've run into across the southern states is that everyone's looking to go over from tobacco. Now, hemp is a soil sucking plant. In other words, it takes up all the nutrients, it takes up all the heavy metals, it takes up all the contaminants. So much so, it's being used in Chernobyl to clean up the after effects. So, when you're planting a tobacco field, you're also risking that your whole crop will be contaminated with whatever is in the soil. Things that we've had tested, and we've had our clients test when they've grown in a tobacco field, it came back with 17 different pesticides, and as well as nicotine. Now, one of the things we suggest personally each time is that when you have that, and you have that in the soil, is to plant several seasons of mint. And the mint will actually take up a lot of the contaminants before you put in the hemp crop. So it'll actually be the cheaper option. So one of the things we do suggest is to plant in greenhouses if your soil isn't up to par, or if there's a lot of worry about how the hemp plant will turn out for CBD oil. And there's also state worry. In a greenhouse, you can control the atmosphere, the climate of it, and a lot of other things. Field growth, you risk a lot of different aspects coming and harming your plants and stressing it out, because stress does in fact raise THC. If your plant is stressed out under any means, and one of the biggest factors of stress is going to be heat. In July, it was recorded as the hottest year ever, and many of the plants around were stunted because of it. Hemp will not grow past 85 degrees and will stunt based off of our research. When our controlled growths in greenhouses, we let it go past 85 degrees, and in those 85 degree temperatures, the hemp plant stopped growing. Hemp itself, especially fiber varieties, should grow up to 16 feet in an extended season. On average, they'll grow about 6 to 8 feet. Many places throughout Virginia and throughout the southern states, especially with clay soil, have a big issue where it's 2-foot plant, 4-foot plant, filled with mycotoxins from the ground from tobacco, things like aspergillus and fusarium, things you got to watch out for, and things that are in fact going into CBD oil. So when you are making this stuff and you're growing, you also have to make sure that you're growing safe stuff, because aspergillus, if smoked over a long time, can build up in your lungs. And this is something that's a bit of a worry, and something that we're trying to help out with our clients as well. It's something that we go into very big details in farming industrial hemp, because we want to make sure that this whole industry is as legitimate as possible, and that it's safe as possible for everyone. Because, let's be honest, the reason everybody's here is because this stuff has helped everyone out. It's helped make us money. It's helped improve our lives. It's helped stop our sore joints. It's helped our overall health and happiness. So we want this to continue. We don't want to be hurt from it. We want there to be no nightmare, no issue. So what the best way to go about it is make sure that we can go around and help everyone else when we are growing, and help them feel the same feelings that we get from it, and make sure that everyone is safe from it, from the issues that can happen. Now, some of the success stories, such as Colorado and Oregon, they have great soil. Northern Kentucky, great soil. Nice, dark, brown, rich soil. And that's perfect for hemp growth. The idea that hemp can grow anywhere, yeah, it can grow anywhere, it just won't grow everywhere ideal. It won't grow everywhere 16 feet, not unless you apply the right fertilizers and micronutrients. Micronutrients and the right microbes in the ground are going to help prevent some of the biggest issues that you can find. If you have microbes in the ground, the healthy microbes, It'll help with the growth. It'll help with any sort of disease in the ground, such as fusarium. Things like fusarium and aspergillus actually hide in the ground from former plants. And the hemp, being a decontaminator of the soil, will absorb that up in its crop. So to prevent that, we can go in, we can soften the ground with gypsum, and what we can do is we can apply healthy microbes. Sometimes molasses will help, and what that will do is that'll help us digest and take out all those heavy chemicals. There's many good people around here, right down it, and having booths that also have good digesters of microbiomes, and it's something that we have to keep an eye on. Microbiomes is just one of the issues that we run into. So one of the big practices that we've seen, that just at some points don't make any sense, is many tobacco growers are going in and they're cutting down their hemp and leaving it to dry in the field, like tobacco. What this does is it exposes it further to bugs, and bugs are going to be one of your big issues that will create microbiomes and mold. Mold is going to be something that will come in, such as powdery mildew, which is aspergillus. So if you want to avoid aspergillus in your CBD oil, in your plants, make sure it's as safe as possible. You have to make sure that that powdery mildew is far away from your plants. And powdery mildew will a lot of times penetrate or go on your plants if from bugs or from the ground. To prevent the bugs, pesticides aren't going to be the answer to that. We have to look towards organic pesticides and things that will not cause harm in the long run, because a lot of the chemical pesticides will get inside the hemp plant itself. Now, to help protect yourself from the total THC, one thing I do suggest is testing beforehand, not from a GC method lab. Now, GC method, it involves burning up the hemp and the bud to test exactly the THC levels. Now, GC method will not test it exactly. There's a lot of estimations that go into trying to find delta-9 and the GC method. It's not accurate in a lot of states, such as the interviews we've done with the Virginia Agriculture Department in North Carolina. They actually use their state labs use the GC method, and what that will do is it will actually overblow and cause a higher number of delta-9, which could then be combined with total THC, and then create an illegal plant. So you have to make sure that you get your own test results before it ever goes to the state. And you go to a trusted lab. So it's always good to find a lab that you trust, one that's a private lab that doesn't report your information if it does go high. That's something that another question you'll have to ask, is that it's a private lab, your information is proprietary, it's not going to go anywhere else. It's yours. So, one of the big issues that we have been seeing is the presence of the lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge that there are certain strains that simply won't grow the full height, that will come in hot, and people just looking to jump in and honestly don't care. Now, everybody's here because they care, and I'm looking to inform everyone because they care. And the lack of knowledge, what it's doing is it's harming the whole business. So it's important to spread around this information and let people know. If you're looking to go in a total THC state, look it up. Look up if it's a total THC state. Go to your agricultural department website. Find out how they are testing it. Call them, ask them, and make sure that they know too, because the lack of information is actually widespread in the state departments too. They don't know what they're doing because this is their first year, second year, and those are going to be the most experimental years and the years that most people could get harmed. So if they just went through, it may not be the best time now to actually go into it until you know or stay informed, up to date, and protected. The more information you have, the more protection you have for yourself, for your crop, for your livelihood. So, what you need to do is you need to interview. You need to contact your local agricultural department because they're going to be the ones sending out the law enforcement to go test your crop. In Virginia, it's required that they send out the police to take a sample and go have it tested. Their labs, they would come back with the GC method and they would use total THC. So one of the issues is let's take special sauce for example. Special sauce, it's a flower variety. Usually under Delta 9, it would be a point to 0.28. Unfortunately, 0.28 would be enough under total THC to actually overblow it into a 0.73 because the THCA was much higher. And that right there is if you had a special sauce crop, it would actually need to be the field burned down. You might be able to get away with keeping the crop up if you have different strains growing. You may just say, okay, well, this whole side was the special sauce, but the rest over here is Fibronova, the cherry wine, and they might require you to burn down the whole thing, but hopefully you can convince them to just take down that. So if you have total THC, it's good to educate the lawmakers too that total THC is not going to help the hemp industry grow. It's going to hurt lives. It's going to make them viable to lawsuits. It's going to hurt the whole industry together. It's going to hurt CBD oil. And that may even be some of their plans if they are not open to it. So, a lot of our book actually goes into this. It goes into the soil science. It goes into basically the stuff you didn't want to hear. And that's why it's important. It's available on Amazon. They're having a great sale right now. We're walking all around this place to sell this book. So if you want to come meet us or if you see us, feel free to talk to us. You can buy a book from us on a special discount. It's usually $24. We'll be selling it for about $15 just for this event. It'll teach you everything you need to know if your soil is not ideal, what you need to do, and what sort of money you need to put out so you have a better idea what you need to succeed. Now, obviously, Colorado, they won't be able to, people from Colorado won't be able to associate or be able to tell you if you're from a non-ideal soil what you need to do. But our job is to go in there and help you redefine your soil so that it can grow hemp, it can have the right nutrients. If it has the right nutrients and you know what you're putting into it and you know what you have and you're well informed about your soil, you can then predict how your hemp crop is going to come out. It's going to come out better, it's going to come out cleaner, it's going to come out safe. You can ask for a higher premium for it with all that information ahead. Now, one of the issues that we come by, because we're also processors of CBD oil and bud extraction, is that many of the growers in Virginia, in fact, do not have the test results for their crop. As a processor, well, if we are found with it, we would be liable for that crop then. If it tests, basically, we could have the state called on us and the DEA take it away if the hemp crop comes in high under the total THC method. So we always ask, do you have the lab results? But there's also another big issue that comes in and steps on the foot of the hemp industry itself, is that people go online and try and take other people's lab reports. They white out all the information and details, and then they give it to us, trying to convince us, this is their crop. But it isn't. And that's something that puts them liable to a lawsuit too. So if you're a processor and you are buying a crop and you're looking to process it, one thing that I do suggest, a very useful tool, is TINEYE, image reverse. It'll tell you, even if it's modified, if it came from the internet. If it finds it on the internet, then that's a no-good COA. That's a person that you don't want to be dealing with. Now, as growers, well, it's hard for us to go and yes. If I get a mic.
The website, John. Tiny.
TINEYE. Tineye. Do we have any more questions? All right then. Now, one of the issues when you have bad soil is, as we found through research and documented in our book, is that tobacco can be radioactive. One thing that can have an issue is that tobacco that's been used with triple phosphate fertilizer, that triple phosphate, it will actually break up and go into radon, and the radon will go into the tobacco leaves. A lot of the bottom tobacco leaves that then absorb the radon, which the radon will break up into lead-210, polonium-210, two carcinogenic, cancerous items. The tobacco leaf will actually absorb those radioactive substances from the ground. And those radioactive substances will go onto the sucker leaves. And if you grow tobacco, you know that those are the leaves you cut off and let the ground reabsorb. So then hemp would then have the ability to go and reabsorb all of that contaminants and radioactivity. So that might be another issue that you have to look into if it was a tobacco-grown field. That's something that we ask as well, but it's something that not a lot of people know of. It's something that we had to specifically go out and look for while we were writing the book. Our book, it's a very scientifically backed book. We have over 13 pages of resources backing up every idea, every sentence, so that it's genuine. It is what you need to hear. And if you want to make money, money comes from the clean product and the biggest yield. So when we get the biggest yield, we make more money. We sell for more CBD oil, and so forth. Our local CBD manufacturer will give you about, I believe it was about $40 per plant if you're producing CBD oil. And that's definitely not as much as advertised, so obviously you need a big yield. But if you're doing a big yield, greenhouses can be sometimes less ideal in that way. So if we're looking at it like that, it's obviously not the big price that we want, and if we want to make the most money off of it, it would be trying to find a way to sell it per gram. So the best way to fix this is to have the top yield. So, and now let me go on to why, let me go on to the actual formula that the states are using now, which is it is THCA times it's THC times 0.877 plus THCA. And what that is that THCA is then added right back into the THC. And what that does is it creates basically an imaginary number, because THCA is not a usable product of the body, and it was made specifically to inflate the THC numbers in marijuana plants. Thank you. Have a great day.
Yes?
Send me that video.
We went live. It's on Facebook. It's on our Hempijuana site.
He's really smart.
I'm his father. I'm Dr. O'Connor. They picked him to speak, so it just went live on Hempijuana. Actually, it was still live.
Going by the schedule, and I don't always know who's